Shalom, and welcome back. Parsha Shavua. This week's Parsha Shavua is Devarim, the beginning of the fifth and last book of the 5 books of Moses. So those of you who have fallen behind a little bit, now's the time. Get that new notebook, that new pen, and to start fresh. Here's your chance. In our Parsha, Moshe Rabbeinu, on his last day in this world, rebukes the Jewish people throughout his time with them and his journeys throughout the desert for those 40 years. The Jewish people had caused much anger before God, whether it was the sin of the golden calf, the delay upon entering the land of Israel, centers around the Jewish people not wanting to enter into the land of Israel. Has one heard of such a thing? Has the world ever heard or experienced a nation who did not want to be redeemed? And the sin of the spies is remembered. As Moses tells the Jewish people, on this matter, you did not believe in God. Sure, there were many matters that the Jewish people believed. It's not hard to believe when things are going well. But when it came to the real test of entering the land of Israel, and you had these so-called giants, scary, these armies here, the 7 nations here, the people became frightened, and they didn't want to enter into the land of Israel. This has always been the problem. And this sin, the sin of the spies, this sin of delaying the redemption, has, so to speak, run after us throughout our times in the exiles to this very day. And unfortunately, for many of you out there, the sin has not been fixed yet. No. We find that the Jews didn't want to enter. They were afraid. They didn't believe in God, that God, could bring us into the land and conquer our enemies and settle us in our place. And so we prefer to sit, what we call shev al taseh, sit and not to do. It's much easier. It's what we call, those are the waiters. We prefer to wait our time out, not to make the waves. And we also find that ran after us, and that policy continued throughout the generations. After the Jews did enter in the time of Joshua and stayed, and in the time of David and Solomon built the first temple, which lasted for 410 years. But because of our many sins, the temple was destroyed, and the Jews were led to exile, a relatively small exile, a short exile, for only 70 years in Babylonia. And after those 70 years, permission was granted to return home. Who wouldn't want to? Who would not pack up right away and head back to our own land? But that, unfortunately, doesn't happen. And the sin of the spies runs after us again. And only a pitiful 42,300 return to their own land. The rest, the rabbis, the business people, the wealthy, the important people, the high society, they prefer to stay where they are in Babylon, enjoying the good life, the golden years of Babylon. Well, you know what? It is from those 42,000 Jews who did return that the Jewish people continued on throughout this very day that we are today. The rest of the good Jews eventually disappeared in the exile that was known as Babylon. Because throughout the ages, throughout the years, even the golden years of Babylon came to an end, as every exile has. But the Jew has not learned. And the sin of the spies continues to run after him wherever he goes. Whether it was the golden years of Spain, Portugal, And in Egypt lands, the Jews did not want to come home and redeem themselves. To this very day, we find this problem. Whether it's not only just returning to the land, but it's also rebuilding the temple. As our parsha, Devarim, always coincides with the week of Tisha B'Av. That's right. And though everyone seems to be satisfied and happy with that little wall that we have over there, and we go to pray at the wall, everyone's so, oh great, we have this place to go, we have this place to pray. But where is God's house? How come we aren't out there asking and praying for God's house? And the sin of the spies continues to run after us to this very day. When will it end? Well, I'll tell you when it ends. When we get up and stop being the waiters. Stop being the ones who are waiting out there for some knock, for some doorbell, for some sign. Rather make it happen. What does God want from us? Does He want us to continue to mourn and to cry and to sit on the floor? No, He wants us to get up off the floor and get to work. Get to work. Get to work and to come home and be part of the redemption process. Get to home and start working and start rebuilding His temple. Because as long as His house isn't built, all of our houses here will be on shady ground, won't be secure. That's what I'm talking about. That's the rebuke that Moshe talks to the Jewish people this week in the parsha. The rebuke of the sins that have been following us. The waiters. It's not the place to be. And so, my dear friends, my brothers and sisters, it is time to brush off the dust from our feet. It is time to get up from the ground, from the weeping. It is time to move ahead. It is time to roll up the sleeves and to get to work and participate in the redemption process, finally fixing the sin of the spies. Enough of the waiters. Enough of the waiting. It's time to bring her home. I'm Levi Chazan from somewhere in the Middle East. Where I go, you can't go. What I do, you could be no part of. Until next time, Levi Chazan, coming to you.